Hey, gang, it is Wednesday. You know what that means? It is hump day. Today's the day where you get to spend with the dentists in the know. This is your backstage pass for current trends, politics, and education in the dental world. It is live, and today it happens to be over a Paso Roble Cabernet called Austin. Pretty good. Can't complain too much. But anyway, you know the routine. We're all here to hang out with you and banter in real time. I'm Dr. Jeff Horowitz. Along with me are Dr. Jennifer Bell. You know her as JB. My good buddy, Dr. Chad Duplantis. We are all practicing dentists. We are all business owners. We are all educators. And our job is to bring all of you in the know. The guy that we have to interview tonight is Adamo Notarantonio, and I got to know him through the Coy Center. Incredible dentist, incredible human being, has so many great interests that include photography and winemaking, and just a super guy. He's got so much to tell us about cosmetic dentistry and the courses that he's teaching now, and how he became the dentist he is today. So we've got Adamo on the show tonight, and I'm really excited about that. All of you out there are going to absolutely love him. But I think before we do that, JB, do you have some news?
Always.
Okay. Let's hear it.
Okay. Well, first off, I'd like to just say Dentists in the Know was a bit on the cutting edge because it was only 4 weeks ago that we ran a news broadcast talking about medical loss ratio and the Massachusetts question number 2 coming up on this November's ballot. And what has happened? Can I dare to venture that people in the ADA were watching and then decided to move forward with some type of initiative? I'll dare to say it. I'm sure they're all Dinks followers. But in the last 7 days, we've seen huge funding coming out of the ADA. We're at the $5 million mark for funding towards support for question 2 on the Massachusetts ballot in November. And actually just came out about 2 hours ago, the AGD has also thrown in additional financial support for that bill as well. So let's dive into that just a bit more, because I read a little bit deeper into that today. And I think we've tried to be pretty open-minded about this issue, and let's not be overly optimistic. I think the value and why this has become an advocacy issue is because there's a ballot option in Massachusetts in November that will force insurance companies, including dental benefits, to move to a medical loss ratio of 83%, which they're currently operating at 88%. We talked about a few newscasts prior about what does that mean? Well, it means that the insurance company must spend that percentage on patient quality care, reimbursement rates back to their patients for medical expenses, et cetera, but also initiatives and that type of programming that would continue to help improve patient care. So it doesn't have to be direct reimbursement. It doesn't have to be me, the insurance company, paying for your crown, but it might be me, the insurance company, paying for preventative programs, educational programs, et cetera. So I think there's always a little bit of a nuance in this particular legislation. We've seen it in medical, and it's existed since the Affordable Care Act that came out several years ago under President Obama, that all medical companies had to operate in the 80-20 rule, where 80% of the proceeds coming in had to be reinvested back into patient care. Dentistry was sort of left out of that ratio assessment. And so it's back up individually being pushed by states to say, hey, we need to have selective legislation for our state for dental and optometry. So we've seen it in a few other states. Massachusetts happens to be the hot topic for November, and we're seeing big organizations get behind this initiative. Now, I think with every legislation, there's always the unintended consequence. And to date, I'm unaware of a large premium reimbursement that went back to insured individuals or increased provider rates because they had all this extra money and they didn't meet the medical loss ratio. So in reality, I think we have to at least be open and honest about the fact that if the insurance company's driver is to be profitable or to be a nonprofit and move money around, they're going to come up with creative solutions, but it at least ensures that some percentage of the money coming in is going back to direct patient care. It was an excellent example in one of the articles that I read today of one of the members who's been involved on the ADA level. And she talked about, she's a non-dentist. They've brought in half of this committee is non-dentists and the other half is dentists. And she brought up an interesting point. She said, I went and dug a little bit deeper into my insurance company and I found that they claim a nonprofit status. They gave away $283 million to whatever causes that they felt deemed to give back to, and only $180 million went back for patient care. That's a lopsided reimbursement plan. When the insurance companies are driving more nonprofit contributions than what they're providing in patient care, then we have a mismatch in what the service is supposed to really be intended to do. So I do think these types of legislative efforts are going to help improve that. The interesting omission from this was Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Massachusetts. And I think this brings up a really interesting conversation point that I bet Chad and Jeff are going to want to jump in on. The reason Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Massachusetts has remained out of really fighting for or fighting against, there's a huge lobbying effort now being deployed by Delta Dental of Massachusetts and several of the other large insurance providers to fight question 2 on the Massachusetts bill. Blue Cross and Blue Shield, the second largest insurer in Massachusetts, is somehow not contributing to the efforts. Why? Because a few years ago, actually in 2020, they introduced value-based reimbursement plans. So they're looking at how they're reimbursing providers based on metrics. Maybe good, maybe not good. I don't know. On the medical side, they've seen a lot of promise in that area. There's good data coming out that shows that when they support preventative measures and encourage doctors financially for good positive outcomes and encouraging patients to make good choices, then everybody wins. And we're seeing this now since 2020 into the dental side. So I think data needs to be collected. I think we really need to see how this is efficacious in our particular arena. But at least the medical side is showing some real promise in value-based reimbursement. So those are the 2 things that are up for debate in November. We've got question 2 talking about medical loss ratio. But in addition, I really think you would have to include in that discussion and debate what the future of insurance reimbursement may look like. And with medical loss ratio being a part of this particular endeavor, is it value-based metrics on clinicians and patients and encouraging positive change? I don't know the answer, but I do know, given the amount of money that has now been flooded into this particular topic, this is going to be certainly of debate within all dental communities over the next few months and putting a pretty good spotlight on Massachusetts. Back to you guys.
You know what else was a hot topic?
Tell me.
What was the worst thing that you learned in dental school that you never used? I think Chad put that up on Tuesday, and that got a lot of response. So yeah, so I think what we ought to do is bring our guest on. Chad, why don't you introduce him, and why don't we lead off with the worst thing that he learned in dental school that he never uses?
Good idea.
I think that's a great idea. So I'm not big on bios. I'm a big fan of personal stories. If anybody wants to read the bio, they can read the bio. But, you know, one of my favorite people in the world is the Dos Equis guy. You know, like the most interesting man in the world. Like that's like my dream job. I want to be the Dos Equis guy just because he looks really cool drinking a beer. Well, I think I would label our guest as perhaps the most interesting man in dentistry. He's got certainly the coolest name, Adamo Notarantonio, but let's not leave out my favorite part of that name, which is Adamo Elvis Notarantonio. And you all know how I feel about Elvis. I have a man crush on Elvis. I'm not going to go ahead and I'm just going to leave it all out there. But anyhow, Adamo is just such a fantastic person. He's a fantastic clinician. Everything that he does is top notch, and he's got one of the coolest stories in dentistry. So before I let him on, let's reiterate that he needs to come up with the worst thing or the most useless thing he learned in dental school, and then we'll start in on some questions. So Adamo, welcome, my friend.
Hey, buddy.
How are you guys? Thank you so much for having me tonight. I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah, we're looking forward to having you here, man. It's super exciting. So go for it. What's the worst thing? What's the most useless thing you learned in dental school?
Oh my God. You caught me quick. I'm like, what the hell did I, it's funny because when I always lecture, I talk about the things that I didn't think I needed to know in dental school, and now I won't work without them. And two of them are rubber dam and cord. But I never thought of it the other way. I'm going to probably say, and I'm not even going to say amalgam, because there are times, on number 16 on a class 5 when there's no bonding. I'm not doing anything there. So I'm going to probably say
Adamo, cold steel and sunshine on that one.
What's that?
I said on the number 16 with the class 5, it's cold steel and sunshine.
Yeah, I know. But you know what? I'm a sucker, and I don't want to lose a tooth. I'm like, dude, it's like up in your ear. It's not functioning. Don't worry about it.
You're all right.
Fix it. I'm like, okay. And I'm the hero, so of course I'm going to fix it because I can do anything. And then I get up there, I'm like, what the hell did I just decide? Anyone, can we get the amalgamator? They're like, excuse me?
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, bring that thing out because I'm not bonding anything here. The most useless thing I learned in dental school is probably the practice management stuff they taught me, which was super minimal, but they had no idea. That was it.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with that.
All right. That's a good one. I think one of my favorites was somebody posted the Krebs cycle, and I kind of had to agree. And it was funny. There was quite a bit of argument on it, and it was, of course, from like biochem majors and stuff like that. They did not think that was funny. Yeah. But Adamo, I want to take a walk in history real quick, and I'd like to start this off with you're in high school, and you're trying to decide what you want to do with your life. And what happens next?
Oh, wow. All right. High school. So high school,
where
I only
I'm going
cared
with
about
this.
2 things, soccer and girls. Yeah, I know where I'm going with this. So it was soccer and girls for me in high school. I was smart. I did okay in school. I wasn't very focused on a career, to be honest. I played a lot of soccer when I was young. I traveled the world. I had a really good career. And I went to college. I wanted to go D1, which I did. My college team finished number 9 in the country. And when I graduated, I decided I wanted to be a pro soccer player. I honestly, dentistry is, as you'll find out, the last thing on my mind. So I played a little pro ball when I graduated, and then I got my paycheck, and I was like, yeah, I'm not going to make money like Cristiano Ronaldo. So this is not going to go well in my future. So I quit because soccer was actually the year I graduated college was the first year of the MLS. And I played in the farm league. I did not play in the MLS, but I played in the league below it. And, it was $50 a game, $100 a game, $200 a game. And I was kind of burnt out because I played so much when I was young. So I quit, and my dad drove a garbage truck when I was young, and my whole life. And I went to work for him, and my mom was his secretary. So I walked in dressed in a suit, and my dad looked at me. He's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm going to come work for you." He's like, "You're not going to go back to school?" I'm like, "No, I graduated. I'm done." So he looked at me and he said, "Please go home and put the crappiest clothes you have on. I'm going to make you wish you never closed the book." And he put me on the back of the garbage truck for a year and a half, and I picked up trash by myself. And I was in really, really, really good shape at that time. I am not in shape right now, but I was then. And I remember the first morning I woke up, and I couldn't lift my arms or bend my fingers from holding onto the truck and picking up the pails. And he was standing over me, and he looked at me and he said, "You got one day to ice yourself. Get ready." So I'm like, I'm not doing this forever. This is miserable. So moral of the story, please tip your garbage men, because that's the hardest job on the planet. I did it. I'm telling you right now. And I did it for about a year and a half. And while I was doing it, my big brother in my fraternity had gotten into NYU dental school. And he goes, "Why don't you go to dental school?" I'm like, "Bro, what's the dentist?" I had no idea. My parents are immigrants from Italy. We didn't go to the dentist. I never had a cleaning in my life, to be honest, which is gross now. But back then, it just wasn't a thing in my family. And I applied. I was waitlisted. I used to go to Stony Brook because I got into NYU and I wanted to go to Stony Brook because it was close to home. And I went to the admissions office every day at 4 o'clock, smelling like crap, right off the garbage truck. And the admissions lady was like, "Are you going to come here smelling like that every day?" I go, "Yep, until you let me in, I'm not going to stop." So I was the last person in. May 31st, the year before I started. I got in on the wait list, and I got into school, and the first day people were like, "Oh, my uncle's an oral surgeon and my parents are dentists." And I was like, "Yeah, my dad's a garbage man, and so am I." I didn't know anything. I didn't know what a mirror was. I didn't know what an Explorer was. But I was hooked immediately. I loved it. And I still love it, as you guys know. But I definitely didn't have the conventional story of a path down to dentistry, because I knew nothing about it when I started. So, I mean, if you want to say I came from nothing in this profession, I would probably say that there's a lot of truth to that, because I really didn't know anything.
Definitely one of my favorite stories in dentistry.
Is a great story.
I think it's so amazing, Adamo, for where you are now and where you came from. And I will say this: that's no disrespect for your family or what they do, because it's hard work, man. And we take a lot of that for granted. And I appreciate everything that they did, you know.
And they said the same thing to Chad, like, "Are you going to keep coming in smelling like that?" And he did not work.
Had no excuse.
He did not work in garbage. I heard that about Chad.
He didn't work in garbage
I heard
at
that
all.
story. Well, you know, the admissions lady said you're the second smelliest guy I ever smelled, and the first one was the dentist. But I didn't know what that meant. I didn't want to.
Right.
I was like,
one for the guest.
That's right. Yeah.
You didn't know him at the time.
Chad zero.
No, that's great.
Yeah, that's good. That's good there, garbage man.
I hate to team up on you, but anyway, Adamo, tell us a little bit about getting out of dental school, what your motivations were as far as, you know, what you wanted out of a practice, and tell us about the early start in dentistry that you had.
Yeah, so, you know, I did a little moonlighting in residency. I really didn't know any better, you know, as none of us did. You know, I worked in an office. I was just looking for a paycheck. And one of my professors in dental school, who had a probably the most well-known fee-for-service practice in Long Island, or in Suffolk County at the time, hired me. And I just went to work because I had a job, I had a full-time job. I was the 5th associate at the time. And he had a study club in his office. And one of the first study club meetings I went to, they asked me to present something, and I did. And there was a doctor there who practiced about a mile away. And Jeff, I know you know Gary Alex. And Gary was literally a mile away, and we were in the study club, and he pulled me aside and he said, "Listen, you have ridiculously good hands, but you don't know anything." And I was like, "All right." So he goes, "I'm going to take you to the AACD, and I want you to go learn about occlusion, because you don't know anything." So I did the Dawson Academy, and I did it fast. I did it in about a year and a half. And I enjoyed it, and I learned a boatload. And Gary also took me to my first AACD meeting in 2006 in Atlanta. So I think Gary is probably the biggest mentor in my career, in the sense that he saw something in me very young. I guess he saw drive and potential, and he pushed me, and he took me everywhere. And it's kind of crazy, because, you know, you think about a local dentist who practices a mile away, and when you want to see people grow, and there was no fear of, or no threat of, he's going to steal my patients. And he sent me so many patients over the years, and really just looked out for me like a son. And I can't thank him enough, because he really, he took me a lot of places I know I would have never seen if it wasn't for him. So he's retired now. We're still good friends. I keep in touch with Gary, and I owe a lot of where I am today from the start that he gave me. And whatever he saw on me, I don't know. But he was amazing, and he is.
Maybe he smelled good.
Yeah.
Maybe you just smell good.
You
Adamo.
know what? I didn't smell like. He definitely didn't say you smell like Duplantis. So I knew I was good there. It was fine, but
Wish we had a score.
yeah, it's all good.
I wish we had the Goodman scoreboard.
I wish we did.
So basically, for those of you that don't know, Gary Alex, start looking up anything on bonding, adhesion, cementation. There's a lot of articles that Gary's written. He is a fantastic person, and luckily, he was just like, you know what? I need a numbnuts for a mentee, so I'm gonna look out for this kid, from Stony Brook, and see if he'll come let me be his mentor. But no, what a great, incredible mentor that you were able to have at such an early point in your career. I think we'd all give a lot for that. So
I think
kudos to Gary for doing that.
Absolutely.
I think I'm worried that we're losing that apprenticeship style mentor-mentee movement in dentistry, that as older doctors who've been doing it for a bit, that we do have some obligation to the new grads that are coming out to take exactly what you said, take them by the arm and drag them to all these meetings and to expose them to all these things and give them that opportunity. So much of what we do is definitely based on our dental education and that time, but there is a bit of that apprenticeship piece that I don't think we give enough value and credit to, that most of us can reflect back on people who made the most impact, and those were pivotal moments in our career.
Maybe I want to piggyback on that and say, and not to the level that Adamo had, but even when I moved to Conway, there was another dentist who, literally maybe 700 yards down the road. And, he knew I was interested in learning. And, here I am, the new guy on the block. He could have seen me as competition, but instead says, hey, Jeff, this guy's speaking here, this gal's speaking here. Yeah. Let's go to the AACD meeting. Let's go to the AGD meeting. You want to drive together. He took the initiative to do that. And that makes you want to pay that forward for other people as well. It just paints what our profession is supposed to be. And so I love that story of mentorship and apprenticeship. And I'm always so taken back by the people that see one other dentist, amongst tens and 20,000 people, that they're worried that, you're going to be the person that puts them out of business. A dentist only has to look one place to see why they go out of business.
Yep.
Yeah. And, it's funny. I think me at this point, we'll get into the AACD, I'm sure, but I mentor a lot of people when it comes to the AACD and accreditation. But what I've noticed over the years, I don't know if you guys have, is, it's a little different than when we were coming up, right? So now these kids come out of school with so much debt, and they're not looking at the big picture, and I don't blame them, right? They're looking at, oh my God, I owe $800,000 in debt. I need a paycheck, right? Whereas, all right, maybe back in the day, we didn't have as much debt. Schools weren't not that we didn't have debt. It was not as big. There are people that still will mentor. I think, the younger generation, and in general, everybody wants everything so fast with the click of the phone and this and that. We all worked super hard to be successful in our career. The younger generation doesn't see that because everything is so fast. You want lunch, you hit an app and boom, in 20 minutes, you have lunch. We don't have to cook if we don't want to anymore. So I think that's a big thing I've seen is I mentor a boatload of people, and I have a lot of amazing mentees who see the vision, but a lot of them don't. And it's only because of the environment that they're coming out in. I think it's a little different, and it's sad because, I heard you guys talk a little bit about corporate before and so on and so forth. The environment is different than we came out. And I hope that whoever's on this call or follows dentists like you guys in this podcast has the same vision as you and I all did when we came out of school to really do higher quality stuff and know that, it might not be an immediate gratification, but in the long term, I didn't do as well. I didn't make as much as I did in the beginning, that I do now. And it was a longer road. But let me tell you, I work a lot of hours and I bust my behind, but I love going to work and I love what I do. And I think that's the ultimate goal. So it's a tough call right now. It's very different than I think it was when
it is, but I still think education is always a wise investment. And even if it needs to be spread out a little more, or, you know, uniquely financed somehow, I definitely, it's just one of those things that, you know, I have to say is I would never be the dentist that I am without a lot of investment in time and money, you know, to go out to a lot of great CE. And speaking of that, I'm curious because I don't know if you remember this or not. I look back, you were actually on one of my lists. You were in one of my courses that I was a mentor for at the Coy Center. You were actually in one of, and I remembered meeting you even way back then and thinking this guy he's special. You know, you meet certain people that you know come in front of you and you're like, okay, this is somebody who really wants to do great things, and you just have an instant admiration. And I remember thinking that about you. What got you to the Coy Center, and what are some of the things that you took from that education?
So, and thank you for the nice compliment. I appreciate that. I remember I finished Dawson and I was gung-ho AACD, and my partner actually went out to the Coy Center and we had a little study club. There was another Coy's doctor there, Bob Matlack. And my partner came back from the Coy Center and was like, Adamo, I know I went to Dawson too with you, and this guy is amazing. And I'm like, all right, let's do it. I'm always up for good education. And I remember my first visit to the Coy Center. It was the weekend. I planned the trip that I went Seattle to Hawaii for AACD, and I was taking my written exam to start accreditation. And, you know, John, as always, introduces himself, and you introduce yourself and asks you about what you're doing. And he happened to say, is anyone going to AACD in Hawaii? Because he was lecturing. So I raised my hand, and he goes, are you doing accreditation? I said, well, I'm going to start my written exam. Well, no joke, 1 year to the day, I take my second Coy's course. And I'm in the room, and John goes, Adamo, you know this guy, John remembers everybody and everything.
Everybody.
Last year, everybody. It's ridiculous. He remembered I was a pro soccer player.
I used to, my second and third course, I actually turned my name tag down just to see if it was a farce. He's like, no,
it's not. It's not.
Everybody.
It's stupid.
It's real.
So he goes, you went to Hawaii last year. I go, yeah. He goes, did you take your written exam? I go, yes, sir. He goes, did you pass? I'm like, yeah. Well, did you submit any cases? I'm like, I did. How many? 3. How did you do? I passed all. Do you have them here? I go, yeah. He goes, can you put them on a jump drive? I want to see them. And I'm like, oh my God. So I'm crap. I need a diaper at this point. So I put them on. No, this is Thursday. I'll never forget it. Thursday, I take the USB drive. I put it on his desk. Thursday afternoon, he doesn't say a word. Friday, he doesn't say a word. Saturday morning, nothing. I'm like, oh my God, he thinks I'm the worst dentist ever.
Yeah.
Saturday at lunch, I come back and there's my USB drive. I literally look at it. I grab it. I stick it in my pocket. He starts the lecture and he goes, oh, wait a second. Adamo, did you get that USB drive? I go, yeah. Where is it? I go, in my pocket. He goes, why? I go, because you haven't said anything in 3 days. And I probably think that you think I'm the worst dentist ever. He goes, quite the contrary. Can you hand that out to everybody? Because I want them to see world-class dentistry that I don't even think I could do. And by the way, I want to publish your case type 1. Have you ever published an article? I go, no. He goes, I'll write it. Give me the pictures. And I was like, oh my, I literally fainted on the spot, right? I'm like, this guy is a legend. So it only took one course. I was hooked by that one. Forget it. Yeah, I still get butterflies thinking about that because it just proved what a humble, ridiculously amazing human being that man is. And not that, listen, I am not a camp pusher. I will never tell anybody.
I'm like you. I'm the same way.
Because I learned a boatload from Dawson. I know a lot of people who are great Panky people, LVI people, whatever you. my thing is take that education, because anybody who goes to those camps, you're already in the top 5% in the country, because
Exactly.
95% of people, they're not even thinking about it. So
Right.
I just happen to love John Coyce and what he's about and what his education is about. And I'm friends with a lot of people who are really high up in Spear, and they do amazing work. So if that's where you started, go. You're not going to learn bad. So again, I am a Coyce guy, yes, but
Yeah.
I believe I never took LVI, but I have a couple of great friends who are phenomenal dentists. I'd let them work on me. That's where they studied. That's what they believe. They educated themselves. To me, that, like you said, Jeff, that's what it's all about.
Yeah. I love it. That's such a great story. So Adamo, what would you say? Because I know you went this whole route, getting accredited with the AACD, and at some point, you have to become really adept with photography. And so, at what point did you say, I kind of want to take this even to the next level? I want to go beyond just learning how to take, the photos for accreditation. I really want to be the best at this, because you're teaching this stuff now. And so what was the transition into, really getting into photography?
Yeah, that's a great story. So, to do accreditation, you need to learn how to take I would call them basic, your day-to-day bread and butter, stock photos, good framing. And so, nothing fancy, no fancy lights. And I was good at that. I mean, I was accredited, and I had no social media at all, because I got in a fight with my sister over some stupid picture on Facebook, and I was like, I'm done. So I deleted everything. I literally had nothing. And my IT guy came up to me and he was like, yo, you need something. I'm like, I'm not doing it. You can have my password, do whatever you want. So my assistant at the time goes, hey, why don't you do Instagram? I'm like, what the hell is Instagram? She's like, well, it's kind of like Facebook, but just put before and after. So I made an Instagram account, and I put my accreditation photos up, and, people commented. And, you always get requests like, follow this person. So I started seeing these photos, and I was like, hold on a second. This is photography. I'd never seen anything like this. And I was hooked. So it was the same two guys from Venezuela. I contacted them on Instagram. I said, listen, I don't care what it costs. I'll fly you to New York. You can stay in my home. You need to teach me everything you know. And they did. They stayed at my house for 5 days. We became super good friends. I learned more about photography in 2 days than I ever did in my life. And that's when I started doing like crazy lip photos, when nobody was doing them. And I was like the black sheep. My office even didn't like me at that moment, but whatever, it was fine. But they literally changed my life, and they showed me an art form to dentistry that I never saw. And I kind of went my own path with it, because they're surgeons. So they did, a lot of implants and grafting and stuff. And I kind of went the cosmetic route. But they changed my life. And they had a course at the time called When the Pictures Really Matter. It was not in the US. And about 2 weeks after they left, they started loving my photography, and they asked me to teach with them. So I started bringing it to the US with them, and I've taught a dozen courses with them in the States. They still do stuff around the world. They're two phenomenal clinicians. Unfortunately, with the situation in Venezuela, them and their families had to leave because it's really bad there. So one of them, my buddy Jesus, is in Madrid, and my buddy Eduardo is in Mexico. We still teach. We're doing a course at Curry Levitt's place in Las Vegas in October. The three of us, we've done it the last 3 years, and they're amazing. So that was the big transition and push for me in photography. They taught me lighting, they taught me art, they taught me how to come out of my shell and creative, and that's kind of what I did.
That's awesome. I mean, your photography is just it's mesmerizing, it's fascinating. So everything that you've done with photography is beautiful. It's nice to hear finally who you learned from, because I think I'm going to call those guys instead of you. And
yeah, don't. I told them that you'll take a shower before, though, so you're not going to smell that bad.
Yeah. So with that being said, tell us about Imprez and where that came from and what's going on there.
Yeah, it's funny because I knew of Amanda Seay through AACD. I'd never met her before, and you know, Jeff, you talk about investing, and for those of you who don't know Amanda's story, and I don't know if you've had her on here or if you are going to, but her story is pretty fascinating. To me, it's very motivating. I mean, she had 4 kids in 5 years, started up her own practice, and because she wanted to continue education, she took out more loans to pay for the education, to go to the Koi Center, to go to Pankey, and really better herself. So for those of you who think that, you know, you're too much in debt, you're talking about a woman who had a family with 4 children and took out more debt to get better. And I know it's paid off in the long haul. So you need to stop looking at the short story and look long term. And she's a great person to talk to because she's not only super motivating for women, she's super motivating to everybody. Me, I cry every time I hear her story because it's fascinating to me. It's impressive. You know, I want to think that I'm proud of myself for my story, but to do that with 4 children is super awesome. So I knew of her. I never met her. And we happened to sit next to each other at an ASDA meeting in Austin, Texas. And we had very mutual friends. She had her laptop open, I had mine open, and we would lean over and look at each other's work. And she's like, wow, that's nice. And I would look over, and we started talking, and a couple of friends came over and introduced us. And make a long story short, that year, actually, Amanda lectured at the 20th Koi Symposium. Mm-hmm. And she called me and she said, hey, I need a favor. I'm lecturing at the Koi Symposium and I want to redo all of my composite stuff, but it's really hard by myself. Would you mind coming to photograph? I'm like, I'll fly down. Just tell me the weekend. So I actually lectured with Gary Alex on a Friday, jumped on a plane Friday night, went to Charleston for the first time, met her and her family, spent the day in her office Saturday filming her stuff. And while we were working, we were like, you know what? Maybe we should do something. Let's do a course. And I always knew, Amanda will tell you she didn't know she wanted to be an educator. I always knew I wanted to be an educator because I loved it. So I said, all right, we'll do it. So we book a 1-day composite course in Charleston in September. And sure enough, hurricane season, a hurricane hits, course gets canceled. So we're like, great, maybe we're not meant to be. So we move it to November. All the attendees come, we sell out. We did great. We got great reviews, and we're like, all right, let's do it again. So we did a composite course the next year, and we did a photography course, and we did a rubber dam course. And that sold out literally in like 12 hours.
Wait a minute. Stop. You put asses in seats at a rubber dam course.
My rubber dam course is the fastest selling out course I do.
That is unbelievable. So
awesome.
What do you attribute that to? Is it's got to be more the following of Adamo, because honestly, there are a lot of topics that are, I think, pretty relevant that people have a hard time putting butts in seats for, and especially in the last 10 years. So what do you attribute that to? Because, I mean, first of all, when you think of sexy, right? I mean, rubber dam doesn't come to mind. Yeah, I want to be the best veneer artist. I want to be, great at doing composites. I want to be, a photographer. I want to showcase my stuff. But it's hard to get people excited about something like that. So what do you attribute that to, Adamo?
Instagram.
Yeah.
100%. I mean, if you look, rubber dam photos are sexy on social media right now. I mean, that's when I first saw rubber dam. I'll tell you the guy who taught me. I think he's the best rubber dam guy on the planet, and I think I'm pretty good. His name is Victor Guerrero. He's in Peru. The guy's amazing. And I saw his stuff, and he was actually lecturing as a guest lecturer with my 2 friends from Venezuela and Rolando from Bisco. They have a course in Spanish in Chicago. And I called Rolando. I'm like, dude, you got Victor Guerrero? He goes, yeah. I go, I'm coming. He goes, it's in Spanish. I go, I don't care. I'll figure it out. So I show up, and it was the wrong day. So Victor spent 2 hours with me and taught me rubber dam. And I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And when I went back and implemented, I fell in love. And now you see a lot of rubber dam on social media. And with accessory clamps, they look kind of sexy. So rubber dam I used to hate it in dental school. I found every reason to not put one on. Now I use 30 or 40 of them a day. I mean, there is no procedure I do without one. So a lot of my attendees who have come to courses and taken that, just because, let's say they took the composite course or the photography course and they liked us and they wanted to come back.
Yeah.
I can name 50 of them that said, you should make your rubber dam course mandatory, because between the bonding, Rolando does the first day on bonding, and then we do the second day on rubber dam. It is the most practical that you can take back on Monday to do quality dentistry. Yes, photography sexy, but do you do it every day? No. Yes, composite veneers and class 4s are beautiful and sexy, but do you do them every day? No. You bond every day. You isolate every day. So in reality, rubber dam, it's the thing to do. And, you know, I've heard people listen.
Oh, no one, I wasn't doubting that. It's just to convince people of that.
No, I know. Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah.
It is. But I think as they came through our curriculum and saw how much we believe in it, and then with the social media aspect of it too, it's worked. I mean, we sell that course out in 2 seconds.
And how many attendees do you have at the courses?
So we started with 30. Now we're up to 36, and that'll probably be the max, because our courses are very hands-on. We probably do 25% lecture and 75% hands-on. So we try to, any more than that, we can't give you the quality time that you deserve for paying what you pay for us to come to the lecture. So they're all 2 days. We have a week-long track also, but it's 2 courses combined. So in reality, each individual course is 2 days. And like I said, it's about 75 to 80% hands-on.
Is there a link for that? If I just look it up, will I be able to find a link?
Yeah, if you go to our website, it's www.impress with 1 S, IMPRES courses.com. And then it'll have course illustrations. And we're launching our 5th course this year. We have photography, we have rubber dam and bonding, we have class 4 composite, we have injection mold and smile design, and now we're doing a veneer prep temp impression course called Blueprint, which the first one we're doing is in December of this year.
Awesome.
Adamo, would you say that this is, I know you've stayed enthusiastic in dentistry for, sounds like most of your career, but do you think this is continuing to keep you engaged and excited about what you do on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, you know what? I think it's a good balance. You know, if you have to ask me honestly, you know, my office manager was funny. We were talking not too long ago, and she was like, well, do you think, you know, one day you might just be an educator? And I'm like, honestly, she goes, I can't picture you not coming out of an operatory with pictures showing us the work that you're so proud of, which I do all the time. I mean, I started a case today and my whole staff had to see it because I was super proud of it. So yeah, I mean, it definitely is a cool balance, because for me, what I enjoy is seeing people grow and seeing people get better. And, you know, I don't have to be the best in the room, nor do I want to be. I'd love to see the people that I teach become a better clinician than I am. And I remember I lectured with Gary, Alex, and we did a composite course, and he did posteriors in the morning and I did anteriors in the afternoon. And someone came up to him in front of me and said, Gary, you're the composite guy. I've seen your anterior composites. Why aren't you teaching anteriors? And his answer was, because this kid's better than me. And I was like, wait, what the hell did you just say? Like, when you watch your student become, and I want to see that, like all the people I love when they send me work, and I'm like, man, that's super, super nice. So it's an awesome balance between clinical dentistry, which can get frustrating at times. But educating, to me, it's amazing. I just love seeing the growth. I love our profession. I want to see, I wish it wasn't 5% of the dental population took the education that all of us have. I wish it was 95%. And if that's my battle for the rest of my life, then that's what I'm going to do, because I want our profession. I think it's the greatest profession on the planet. And I think that our patients, or all patients, deserve to get treated the way all of us on this forum right now, and everybody listening, because they're listening here for a reason. These are not whoever's on this right now, in my eyes, is already top 5%, because it's Wednesday night at 9:30 and they have a lot of other things they could be doing. But the fact that they're here listening to me, and especially Chad, then, you know what I mean? I think it's amazing.
Jennifer, do you think Do you
This
think we
could be
should
a
maybe
thing.
just move Adamo into Chad's
Yes.
spot?
Yeah. There it is.
Perfect. Done.
Upgrade!
Done. Here we go. I love it. Chad, I'll let you know when I'm going to invite you on again. I'll text you and we'll go from there.
You'll get a link.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Chad.
thanks.
Will you come back again and see us sometime?
Yeah, thanks. Thanks. Oh man.
I will, in all seriousness, I think you bring up a great point. Most lecturers and educators need that balance between chair time and education time. And I think it continues to make them relevant. But the big piece, I think, is we all need to be in community with one another. And when we're in community
Yes,
with
for
one
sure.
another, we're growing and we're mentally stabilizing. And, COVID was hard for dentists to be very isolated. Both from each other and also from the profession that we trained really hard to be good at. So I think your courses in particular are serving a great need, not just from an educational opportunity, but you're building a community, just like John set out to do however many years ago that he had this vision of what he was going to build with his tribe. He was creating a community. And I don't have to know every COIS person to have an immediate connection with a COIS graduate or a mentor or a scientific advisor or instructor. Like, I know that there's this great ecosystem that we all share. And I love that you're starting to build your own community of followers within Impress and mentoring those in the next wave of our profession. So kudos to you and everything that you and Amanda are doing. I think it's phenomenal.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So I have, I think we hit on a lot of subjects tonight. We're getting close to the end, but I want to bring something up.
I'm sorry, Chad. We're out of time. Can we?
Yeah.
Adamo, wrap us up. Go ahead.
We'll bring you
All
on
right.
next
So
week
thank
and
you
let
for joining
get
us.
that
No, I'm
thought
kidding.
No, so we hit on a lot of things, and I want to bring something up and just do a real quick roundtable here. We don't have much time left, but this past weekend, I had the wonderful privilege of spending a few minutes with a dental student, and the dental student was talking about what her next step was going to be in her dental journey. And so she was asking for my opinion on a GPR or an AACD or what things should be. And so we started talking, and I was like, well, I think you need to further your education. I would highly encourage you to do a GPR and AACD. And then I stopped and I thought for a second, and I said, wait a second, why don't you go get an associate job? And I said, budget out of that associate job, figure out which school of thought you want to follow, and maybe take a little starter course in several of them and figure out what suits you the best. And then take that curriculum over the next 3 to 5 years. What would you all have said to that dental student?
I'm a big residency guy. And the reason I say that is I think there's no substitute for just being put in front of a lot of people and to have some supervision. I kind of like that in the 1 year GPR thing. And then to take a little bit of that with you when you go on to whatever education. I almost think you need to have some background beyond the 3-hour occlusal, that you did in operative clinic. But I like the thought process.
Mm-hmm.
I think mentorship and apprenticeship is so overlooked in dentistry. And we talked about this last week. We talked about how apprenticeship could really be much bigger than it is in dentistry. And certainly that's the way that most master ceramists learn their trade is through apprenticeship.
Yeah.
And they are true artists. So why would we not use similar principles in dentistry?
What do you think, Adamo?
Chad, great point. I do. And I also think that Jeff does as well. And I think it's going to depend on the person, right? So Chad, if you said, I'm going to take a kid out of school, well, let me tell you something. If I was in school, I'd run and learn from you. And because I know the quality that you do, and the same with Jeff and so on and so forth. But in the same breath, I always push people. I said, listen, if you're going to find a GPR and AGD, find something that if you want to do restorative dentistry, try to avoid a GPR that you're only going to do endo and exo, because what the hell's the point if you're not going to do some dentistry? So I think you can go either way. I mean, I'm sure if a dental student came out and said, and I was going to take one in, like I have an AACD resident right now. She practiced for 3 years. She quit a job. She moved from South Carolina. This is my second AACD resident. And she basically shadows me for 2 years. So that knowledge for her to see what I do day to day, or what you guys do day to day, is priceless, right? For 2 years. But if it's in an office that is maybe corporate and not in the focus of dentistry that we all want to practice, it might not be most beneficial. So if I could see them going either way. I think if they come out of school and go into private practice, they need to pick a quality private practice with a dentist that has the education and the mindset that we all do. And if they don't, they need to pick a residency where they're going to do clinical dentistry, not just yank teeth in the middle of the night and endo, because they're really not going to learn anything about occlusion or crown, right? So I think it's a cool balance, but they have to figure out what and where they want to do.
I love it. And I think that you're right. It really depends upon the person. And I think maybe the reason that I suggested that is we started thinking GPR, AACD, and the eyes got a little bit bigger, and, you know, not really sure that's what I want to do. And so we kind of came up with some other plans or options and thinking about that. But anyhow,
the big win in any type of residency, but I agree, a more restorative focused dentistry or a residency, is to understand your boundaries. Like I tried to save a lot of teeth in residency that I know better now. Like I have a much more pragmatic conversation with patients, but at that time there was no money exchanged. You know, they were part of the VA system. So if I wanted to try endo and do a buildup in crown and push crown lengthening and just see what I could really get away with and what my restorative boundaries really were, I didn't have good guardrails up in dental school. I was extremely conservative, too conservative. So the residency allowed me to sort of push those boundaries a little bit to hopefully land somewhere in between where, like Adamo doing that class 5 on 16, like knowing where those parameters are going to fall, where you can be heroic and a great dentist, but also manage the risk, as John always says really well, managing the risk of those more difficult cases. So, you know, I'm more of a fan of the residency only because no money's being exchanged. So it opens up a big opportunity for doctors to really push their boundaries a little bit. But I also highly value a mentor apprenticeship relationship. So I think Adamo also brought up a great point. Depending on the person, you know, some are not super conservative like I was, so they're going to push those boundaries comfortably on their own anyway. I needed that opportunity to do so.
But, you know, one of the things that residency did was we had a lot of visiting attendees that would come through, and I latched on to a couple of them, some in oral surgery, some in perio. And, you know, you just find people that inspire you sometimes, maybe not the discipline, but the people. And you take something from them, even if you're not going to do everything the way that they do it or go completely down the road of perio or oral surgery, you're going to take something from them. So I just think that there's a lot of opportunity there that you may not necessarily get under one point of view, you know, at that point.
Sure.
And, but that's a great conversation, though. I really like that.
Well, we can table it for later, but I just thought it would be something good to bring up, especially
since on our next show, we'll invite you back on and you can come talk to us about it.
Yeah, Chad, will you come back?
It'll be great when we get you back.
It would be good if you could come back and tell us more about that.
Adamo, just ping me and let me know when it works for you. And I'd love to come on the show again.
That's fine, total. I think it's time to call it a night. That's fine.
Guys, we are 5 minutes over. We could talk to Adamo all night. Buddy, thank you so much for coming on. Chad, thanks for getting Adamo to
thank you. It was awesome.
Come on the show. But, man, it was great talking to you. Wish you all the best and everything. And again, thanks for sharing with everybody your stories and your amazing dentistry. It was really a pleasure talking to you.
Can I just say one full circle moment? Full circle moment. It was 2 years ago. in
This
October.
weekend. Yeah.
Yeah.
That we saw
It might have
Adamo
been
in
September.
Charleston.
And
Yeah.
we
Oh,
ran
is that
into
you're
y'all.
right.
In Charleston at our course at happy
Mhm.
hour. Yep.
And we crashed their happy hour.
We crashed
Yep.
your happy
And-
hour.
And
But
you know
for
what
you
course
to
that
know,
was,
Adamo,
right?
yeah, that was
Yeah.
the first time the three of us had been together doing what we're doing.
At my rubber dam course, by the way.
At your,
Was it
at
really?
your damn rubber
Damn,
dam.
you
At-
damn
at
right
my
it
rubber
was.
dam course.
Damn Skippy.
Damn right.
I
So
love it.
thanks for,
Right.
embracing us that night as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
Always a
All right,
pleasure. You
guys.
guys are awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, Adamo. Well,
Thanks,
Chad,
everybody.
great show, great guest, great everything tonight. Always good to see you guys, but I think we need to kind of close it out. So I just want to say on behalf of Dr. Jennifer Bell, Dr. Adamo Notarantonio, and myself, we want to thank you for watching Dennis in the Know, and we want to thank our guest, Chad Duplantis, for coming on. And
Yeah, you were great, Chad. We'll look forward to seeing you
Yeah,
again.
you're really great, Chad.
hey, gang, we do, as Adamo said, we have the greatest profession in the world, but you know what? It's even better when you're in the know. Thanks
Take
for
care.
watching, and everyone have a great night.
Good
Yeah, have
night.
a great night, everybody.
Good night, guys.
And that wraps up another podcast for Dentists in the Know. On behalf of Dr. Jennifer Bell, Dr. Chad Duplantis, and myself, remember that we've got a great profession, so let's make it a great day, dinks.